This is the third of a series of events that we kicked off back in April when the hotel just opened. And it's a fine hotel and you're welcome to a tour of it later on. The new roof bar isn't open officially yet, but I haven't seen it, but I believe it's fantastic. The weather isn't actually conducive to being up there, but if you're getting wet inside and wet on the outside, maybe that's not a problem. So today the events is about the business case for managed print service. And managed print service as a term is starting to gather. More and more people are aware of what MPS, we say what MPS is, it means managed print service. Well, not everybody up until recently has been aware, but managed print service has been around for quite a while. I want to just go off script slightly, and that is to say, last night I went to the Tom Crean play, which is on the Olympia, and if you haven't been, I'd recommend it, but I'm a fan of the earlier explorers, and I want to try and develop an analogy between early explorers and MPS, and see if I can make a connection. And the reason I'm making the connection is that I believe there is some traits that the early explorers showed that we need to have in deploying MPS. And those qualities include adaptability, flexibility, fortitude perhaps, but the R's of reliability, resilience, because you need a resilient system, right? And creativity and health, because no MPS is identical to the next one, because everybody's office is slightly different. And the last one is return, because you're going to need a return on investment. And from an explorer's perspective, I made the connection that they needed to return home. That was their focus. So today, the running order is myself to present just for about 5 minutes. Then we've got Trevor McCarron, who's kindly agreed to present his case study on behalf of Mazars. And thereafter, we've got some stands, which I'll explain how that's going to work as we get to it. Sorry? In terms of Digicom, if you haven't noticed, those are some people in the room who have been with us since we started back as far as 1997. Digicom has rebranded after 16 years. Very quickly, the background to that is that as a company we've been changing, especially over the last 4 years. When we started off, it was very hardware driven. You know, it was about, Digicom comes from digital communications. And it was all about digital communicating via the likes of printers and photocopiers that were morphing into multifunction devices. Because back in '97, multifunction device wasn't a common term, but it is now. And we've changed as a company, and to demonstrate that to our client base, we've gone from very hard lines to very soft dots here, which demonstrates why we're now in the solutions and soft services business. Our devices and our hardware puts dots on paper, but that's all it does. It's what goes around those devices. And we're very much, and you'll see it here today, focused on not just the hardware, it's more the solutions and software. We have a new website, that's the homepage, and then we have different sections of what we do. We've obviously got an audio-visual division, but today we're talking about print management. So what is MPS? This is the definition, the simplest one I could find on the web. So it basically says, it involves managing hard copy devices such as copiers, printers, multifunction devices, fax machines. The key word is in a unified fashion. Whilst this can be done internally, the term is typically associated with outsourcing. That's where we come in. So we see ourselves as your outsourced partner. That headache of print should be basically given to somebody like ourselves. So there's a bigger term, and it's called managed document services. And that's a close relation to MPS, where vendors consider the service to be wider than simply print. So it's not just about print. Today is about managed print services, which is all about output. But there's a bigger area about input, creating documents, and then throughput, how they go through your system. And that's managed document services. But our focus today is on MPS. But I need to bring that term into you because it's becoming more and more pertinent, relevant, whatever the word is, in terms of how businesses run these days. So why MPS? Quocirca, if you haven't, are like a Gartner group. See that company, QUOCICRA? I'll have a reference to who they are later on. But bottom line is, they say, MPS has the potential to play a key role in delivering a strategic business value. Not only does MPS save money, but it also can mitigate risk, promote enterprise mobility, improve environmental credentials, and transform business processes. And we have case studies to back up all those 4 elements. And mitigating risk, by the way, is becoming really pertinent for businesses today. I just want to also draw attention to the fact that we have an MDS, Managed Document Services strategy, and does go beyond the traditional scope of MPS. Because some people here may have had MPS for 3, 4, 5 years and beyond. Some people may be just looking at it now. But device consolidation, optimization to encompass the broader document lifecycle from input, which is the creation of information, throughput, how the information moves around the business, and output, processing information in a way to add business value. And Quocirca estimates that over half of enterprises will be using MPS by 2014. And down at the end it just says who they are. They're a research and analysis company specialising in business impact of ICT, and their website is there. They have some really good white papers on their website if anybody's interested, both on security and beyond. And it's quite a modern way of gathering information. So if you do want to work out the importance of an aspect of your business and you're not sure where to get empirical information, Quocirca is a good place to start. So why MPS? So some companies are reaching second phase. As some enterprises move to second phase of their MPS engagement, they're increasingly looking for a more proactive stance from providers and more innovation. And this is where we're challenging ourselves to be more innovative. So people like ourselves, Digicom, are placing greater emphasis on complementary capabilities such as print room and production services. We'll have some clients who are producing high volume work, and like you might have a publications area where you're producing specific high volume documentation, and then you may have the local printer to a specific department. So we can provide that. Business process outsourcing, BPO, is all not pervasive these days, but it's a common word and it's a common issue for a lot of businesses. And IT outsourcing to maximize the value of an MPS engagement. And this is a challenge for us because we are becoming an IT company de facto. It's happening. So we have to embrace that ourselves. So today we're here to talk about core MPS. So the core aspects of MPS, important aspects are the management, billing, maintenance and optimization of the process throughout the agreement life. There are a wide variety of other services and software applications that can be added to this core, and we have some of them here today that we'll show you. MPS are facilitated by key software applications that fall into one of four categories. So there's the print management piece, which is software to manage the volume and nature of print and authenticate users. And that falls back into the security side of things. Who printed what and where? Can I track that? Can I control that? Can I manage that? The second aspect is device management software to monitor and manage the print devices in an environment. So we have a pack here today that you all have got, and in it there's a couple of things. One is 3 case studies that are relevant. Mazars kindly, which is right up to date. We've one here for Carton House, and we've one for Bruce Shaw, who you might recognise are the largest quantity surveyors in the country. And we wanted to use the likes of Mazars from an accounting perspective, Bruce Shaw because they're quantity surveyors, so that's what they do. They drill in deep into numbers and they put us through a deep process to come out the other side as their chosen vendor. And then First Choice Purchasing, who manage Carton House and other properties around the country, again put us through a process, and we came out the other end as their chosen MPS provider for all of Ireland. But the other reason I wanted to mention this part here is that we have developed our own piece of control software which is called Print Vision. That's device management software. So that will tell us what your uptime is, and it's telling us on a day-to-day, 24/7 basis what machines are available to you, what are down. So we'll know before you know whether you need toner. We'll know before you need toner if the machine is jammed more than once. We'll know if it's down off your system. So you're outsourcing the issue to ourselves. And that's what clients want. The issue is left with us and not you. Discovery and design software to analyse and plan for the change required to implementing an MPS. So we have a methodology in place to discover the information we need to come back to you with a solution, which is the audit procedure. Scan routing software to route scans to various destinations, including fax service, network folders, emails, our workflows. And that's all about how you're routing documents. Because scanning wasn't something that was prevalent in offices up to, I don't know, when you say 5 years ago, 3 years ago, but now everybody can scan, and it's easy. But how do you authenticate and how do you manage that information? Just a quick show of hands, SharePoint users in the audience, current SharePoint users, so we've at least 60% there, maybe 50%. Anybody who's considering SharePoint that isn't using it now, we're getting it there, so that's becoming an issue. We in room 3, or area 3, we'll show you how SharePoint can link in to our conversation today. I want to hand over to Trevor, who's going to give you a background to their deployment of MPS.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Trevor.
That's great. So I'm Trevor McCarron, Director of IT and Finance in Mazars. Mazars is a leading professional services firm worldwide, providing a range of services from audit, tax, insolvency, outsourcing, consulting. I'm in Mazars now about 5 years, and when I joined Mazars I was amazed at the number of printers we had in the organisation. I think we have 49, 50 printers over 4 floors, so that's roughly 12 printers a floor. And it became part of the culture in terms of once you were promoted, it was like getting a pay rise, you got a printer. So when you became a director or a manager, you know, there's your office, there's your new phone, and there's your printer. So it was a kind of one of these bugs of mine that at some point I'm going to tackle this. But our IT manager at the time said, God, can't take away someone's printer. What about the confidential information they print? And all this. So about 2 years ago, we had a break in our lease, so we entered into negotiations with our landlord, and anyway, as part of that, we did a reorganisation of our premises on our 4 floors, and we moved from a very much a cellular office space to an open plan. So, which has happened now in the last 6 months, but obviously the planning will took a long time. So, as part of that, I said to the IT manager, this is a great opportunity now to move from all these 50 printers down to 10 or 12. So, and the reasons, okay, that was, the main reason behind it are, one was waste. I mean, I would go around the printers at night, phenomenal amount of paper every single evening on every single floor, just left stacked there. We come to it in a while, excuse me, but I think in the first 3 months that we've deployed this, there was 46,000 pages printed in 3 months. Sorry, that was sent to the printer in 3 months that weren't printed. Now, it's not a huge amount of, in terms of cost. I mean, 46,000 pages. It's just phenomenal, I think, just in terms of, and that's both colour and black and white. So that was the first thing, a huge amount of waste. The second thing was, excuse me, in terms of security. I mean, in this day and age, we're all very conscious of risks that we have in our organisations, and confidential information left with printers for the next person to come along and have a look at, we felt wasn't adequate. People could, you know, walking around the building, you could pick up anything, have a look at it, what's in it, what's in relation to, what clients in relation to. So that was another issue. I mean, with my finance hat on, I had no idea who was printing what. Where was the cost? I just knew our print cost was X per annum. It was in line with last year. Is that good or is that bad? Who's printing all the volumes? What are they printing? Black and white, colour. The other thing, from a waste perspective, when you walked around the building, there was first draft across something in colour, second draft across in colour, not even picked up. So people were doing all this printing. I had no control over it. 50 printers, you can imagine the amount of toners that had to go into ordering these every day, every week, every month. We have quite a small IT team, and with 49, 50 printers, there's always an issue. So what you have is basically, there was always one of the people up fixing a problem with a printer, ordering toners, trying to get these issues resolved. So the other thing was that we had a major problem with is that nobody ever came to us and said, came to IT and said, look, we have a major tender going out tomorrow, can you make sure there's no problems? Nobody comes to you to say this printers are working. Nobody sends you a mail at night and says, thanks very much, we had a great tender with that today and printing works fine, so well done. But at 9 o'clock at night, when they go to print the tender, it's due in at 9 o'clock in the morning and there's a problem, they ring you then. So that was one of the big problems that, you know, we had. That. And then they started going around the building and trying to get it to print on a different machine. And with 50 printers, you have Ricos, you have HPs, you have Canons, you have Okies. Every printer was different. So then they'd be ringing back saying, well, how do I use this printer? And so all of these things, I think, combined issues, and once moving to a more open plan office, we kind of said, look, this is a perfect opportunity now to move to a management service. So obviously we kicked it off, and we went out to tender with 3 parties, Digicom being one of them, and we had a couple of MPD devices, but we felt that the current provider basically just, they came in, they counted, you know, they sent us an invoice, they printed whatever's the fault, we called them in, they fixed it. We felt Digicom were offering something different to that night. It was more a managed solution, it was more an outsourced service, which from my perspective with a small IT team was great. So I didn't have to worry about them having to check all the printers, that these were taking ownership. The selection was very transparent, and I think especially the Digicom, they gave a very detailed overview of what our options were and what we were actually doing, which we seen as part of the audit. I think, if I'm not right, Digicom came in 4 times to do the audit. I think the other firms, one came in once and one came in twice. And the reason they came in 4 times was that they noticed there was a peak in a particular month at a particular time, which was part of our business. At month end, we print all our invoices, we print all our statements. So there was a peak, and they wanted to make sure that this was reflected in the audit, and it didn't give, for example, saying when you're going to print. The way that the audit was done, they were estimating what your printing is over an annualized basis. So if they took one particular day, the printing was very high, obviously, or very low on the other side, you get a reading which wouldn't be accurate. So the audit procedure was very detailed, as I said. We were very impressed with the professionalism of Digicom at the time, and felt it was very transparent. We sat down, we looked through the reports, the recommendations, and the detail that Digicom went into was a great help to me, because it gave me an insight of where all this money was being spent, without having to go back and troll through TVs and nominals and different suppliers and what we were buying from each of them. So we sat about then discussing, okay, how can we get from where we're at 50 down to what's the right level to go to? So we went with, I think, 8 MPSs or MPDs in the end, 2 on each floor. We also kept 1 printer on each floor, so I think we're up to about 12, 13 printers. All directors, managers' printers taken away, 2 on each floor, basically split in the middle of each floor, and the PAs then have 1 spare one, which are basically just in case they need, if there's certain complicated printing that just wouldn't lend itself towards to the volume mechanism. So after going through that, we basically sat down and agreed with Digicom, which we were very happy to do. I discussed how we would get to that point. We commenced then the planning for the implementation. I was very busy at the time. We were doing a renovation of 4 floors. So basically I outsourced the whole solution. They planned the whole thing. They came into us, so gave us a call the week before and said, we're coming in on Monday morning and we're going to take out all your printers and put in new printers. Which they did, and they came in on Monday morning, and by I think 1 o'clock our printers were deployed. I think they spent 2 to 3 days maybe in, which involved the training, setting up with groups of 10 people at a time, bringing them to the printer, showing them how it worked, showing how easy it was. And it was that, and basically, this is what we use in Mazars every day. This is, for an accountant, it's like a calculator. You just don't come without this. This gets you into the building, this gets you, and this is what you print with. So, the one swipe covers everything. Swipe in, go to your printer, swipe it, and there's your documents. Whatever you sent to the printer is there. It doesn't move until you hit the print button. And that's where, so if I go and say, well, I don't really need that, I don't want to print it. I think after, we have a setting in ours, I think after 12 hours that disappears. So after 12 hours, when I print a document, well, it's gone. I want to print it again, I go back and print it again, and it's stored until I either print it or it's wherever it goes. So basically the training of the people, that took, over a 2-day period, just dealing with any issues anyone had or any complexities in terms of specific printing requirements that they may have that might be just slightly offline from your day-to-day printing. And that went very well. I think after that then, it rolled out. From then on, it's a reporting issue. Ease of use. It's so simple. You swipe, you add a printer to scan, and that's we use it both in photocopying, printing, and scanning. So if I want to scan a document, I swipe, put it in, scan, email to where I want to email it. Photocopying, I swipe in, hit photocopy, and that charges my account and it photocopies from. The great thing from the finance perspective, I was finally getting a control on what we were printing. I finally could report on who was printing what were they printing, when were they printing it, colour, duplex. Going back to the 50 printers, everybody had their own settings. So IT could come up and say, okay, we're going to set this to duplex. Somebody else could they could just come along and change it. So now, across the organisation, it's double-sided printing and it's all in black and white. And they're the standards. So when you send something to print, that's the way it goes. Unless you physically go in and change that you need to change this stuff. You have two options, it's black and white or colour, and you pick that as you want to print. Very simple, it's a click of a button. And as I said, what was great from my perspective was that actually there was one incident where somebody hit at an Excel document 8,000 pages and sent it to print. But obviously IT spot before he got there, 8,000 pages between IT and him, they decided, okay, we'll better not print that. But that in the past would have printed, subject to somebody putting in the paper. It's an example of where finally you have a little bit of control over this. Plus, the other side of the control is that, you know, people coming in and getting new printers, and I need a new printer, my printer isn't working, it's jamming or whatever. Now we've got a new print fleet, you know, it's outsourced, the maintenance of it, ordering the toners, all done by Digicom. We don't have to worry with that. My IT team can now add value in different areas, rather than trying to fix problems that shouldn't really cause. I alluded to this earlier, but you know, in our game, a lot of our business is going through tenders, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. And the importance of not having a problem with a printer in the evening. As I said, nobody tells me when they're going to have a big tender job out, and you know, for them to be able to print and for it to be seamless is great. It's a huge weight off my mind every evening. As I said, the support is there, the reports. I got a report from Greg during the week there telling me about the saving on the items that were sent to print but were never collected. I mean, 46,000 pages is it's crazy. Somebody else was telling me actually at a different presentation, Microsoft, what they used to do was actually stack all the pages so that people visibly see, you know, what waste was left there every day. Thankfully, you don't have to do that now. We can just delete them, but they don't print, so they're not deleted, and they're not printed. The other thing that we have is actually when someone goes to print, it actually has the cost. So they know when they go to print what the cost of their print is going to be. So if that's going to cost you €2, that's going to cost you €10 or 20 or whatever it is. And from a reporting point of view, from a finance point of view, I now have the opportunity to recharge departments for the printing. So if somebody wants to go ahead and print, it's fine, but you're going to recharge for it. It's going to hit your profitability, it's going to hit your margin. So all the time you're trying to change the culture. The culture at the start was we all needed printers. What we're trying to get to now is that no, we need to manage our print. We need to print, we need a quality of print, you know, that's of a firm of our stature, but at the same time we need to manage it. And I think that's what we're getting from our relationship with Digicom and Rico, for that matter, who, you know, we're one of the other key reasons that we picked the Digicom solution. Our IT guy was very positive on Rico and their machines. This is another, I think, this is this report that we alluded to earlier. So basically, since we had it in, I think we've had 98% uptime. So that's basically in with 3 to 4 months, there's been 2% of downtime, I presume, which is great because if any of you have, and I'm sure other people have all this issue with loads of printers, it's terrible trying to manage all this. When's this toner come in? When's that toner come in? And a huge difference to our even to, you know, where do you store? I mean, suddenly now I have an area that I used to store all these toners. I don't need that anymore. And that 1,300 was actually the same cost of 46,000 pages. Now, I don't like the 1,300 because that's quite a small amount. It's actually, you know, that's just a print. That doesn't cost. That's not including the cost of the paper. But it's actually the 46,000, I think, which is a big figure. Mazars now we've come through the first 3 months, very happy, and I suppose now where we're at is the next level. This is, as Greg alluded to there, this is the output side of things. So now we're looking at the input side of things and the throughput. So I think that's where we'll be looking to move in the next 6 months or whatever. So move this forward.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg?
Yeah, well done.
If there's any questions later on, I suppose we can.
Yeah, the format is from here is to basically break up into, I think what will work optimum wise is 2 groups. We've got 3 stands, one down the back, one here and one in the other room. and we'd like to spend 10 or 15 minutes trying to get you to expose what the technology is in each area, so you can see the actuality of how this system works. So the idea is that we said we'd start at 12 and we'd be finished by 1 to 1:15, half one at the outside. It'll be more likely 1:15 if that's okay, and then we've food coming in. So the idea is that we'd spend 15 minutes at each stand, and then come back in and then do a Q&A with the key people, because we've people who've flown over who are industry experts from the UK to help us explain what's going on, best practice in the industry, not only in Ireland but outside of this jurisdiction. So stand 1 down the back is print management and paper cut. Ben McKean is here, so you're going to take the first group. And stand 2, which is here, which is Derek McGean, is going to present on Digicom managed print services, so that's going to give you a bit more detail. And stand 3 is the input and throughput software solutions, okay, which is inside, which is Steve Strange and Darren have flown over from the UK as well. So if I can, I'm going to sort of break up into sort of an even group of 2, please. So there's no clear way of doing this, but if I could say that we take about 6 or 7 people here, so if I can suggest these 2 rows and perhaps 2 from this row up here, that's okay. And then if the rest of the people